Hello and welcome back to the Latics Lowdown by me, Corey Bissell. And today we've got our first guest, Dan Stacey. A lot of you on Twitter will know about Dan. You'll have read his sensible transfers. You've read Talking Wigan. We know you have. If you're watching this podcast, it's likely because you've listened and looked at Dan's stuff before. So, Dan, thanks for coming on, mate.
No, that is quite the introduction, Corey. Cheers, mate. No, delighted to be here. Delighted to be here. Like I say, um, I've sort of passed on the torch to you now in terms of the latest content. So I'm delighted to be here.
Well, there's a few others that seemingly like joining the Twitter space as well. It's a growing space. I think there's some people. I think we won't touch on it too much. We won't mention names, but there's some people that I don't think particularly enjoy to see us stats nerds thriving. But
Mm.
we'll leave that at the door for today. But for people that don't know sort of what you do on Twitter, Dan, do you just want to give us a little bit of a breakdown?
Uh, well, it's more what I did on Twitter, to be fair, because I've
Right.
kind of semi hung up the laptop. That's not really how you'd say it, but no, I used to run Talking Wigan, which was, I think, the biggest Wigan website, and yeah, just sensible transfers, match reviews, player reviews when they joined and left, and just all sorts really. We had a good run of it. We had a lot going on during the years where I was covering us as well, which no one will need any introduction to. But yeah, it's been good fun. But now on Twitter, you're probably just seeing me posting AFC Telford stuff. So sorry about that, all my Wigan followers. But I don't really. All my stuff now is about the National League North rather than Wigan. But with the transfer window back open, I can't stay quiet about Wigan and transfers. So I'll be loud and proud on there as always.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of the transfer window, we have made our first movement. Fraser Murray has come in from Kilmarnock. What do you make of that, Dan? Initial thoughts?
Yeah, well, to be fair, he's a player that I hadn't really heard of before. I sort of recognised him from Hancock Analysis, who's a Portsmouth fan. His recruitment doc, he suggested him for Portsmouth, who are obviously a championship team. So that's a positive in that sense. But yeah, he looks a good player, doesn't he? I think the standout is the fact that only a Rangers player and a Celtic player created more chances than him last season in the SPL. And I mean, if there's one thing we need, it's players who can create chances. So in that sense, it's good. I mean, its highlight package looks good, but I imagine Silko Thomas's, Michael Olakigbe's highlights package look pretty good as well. So we'll have to wait and see what is like in in a match situation. But the fact that we've got him early, he'll be in first day of pre-season. He seems pretty versatile, clearly a very technical player in his prime, free transfer. Can't really argue with that.
No, you can't really complain, can you? Obviously, the first signing of the Ryan Lowe era. I've seen a lot of people saying that they expect him to play an attacking midfield. I don't necessarily see it that way. I think you look at his heat map last season, it was all down the left wing. I think he will either play on that left hand side or Ryan Lowe, I think, probably likes to have left footers on the left, right footers on the right. He might switch him over to that right hand side, but I don't particularly expect him to play all of his minutes in the midfield. When you touched on it there, the difference already between this summer transfer window and the people that we've been linked to compared to the last summer transfer window. We can confirm now, obviously, we touched on it last week, that Joe Riley has come in from Fleetwood Town. We've got a new recruitment team. What do you think? Obviously, you've covered us in depth in the past when it comes to transfers and talking Wigan. What do you think the big key difference that we should make from last year to this year is in our recruitment?
Uh, well, definitely move away from the deciding to get 7 loan players, none of which have barely any first team experience or League One experience. That would be a good start. Permanent players so that we don't have to do a rebuild every summer. That'd be another good start. And I guess, a permanent signing of a peak age player is, suggesting that we're going in that direction, which is good. How much it's down to Joe Riley, I don't know, obviously, because, well, it was announced like a day or two after Joe Riley was. So I assume this has been in the works for a while. That is kind of the point of having Gregor Rioch as the sporting director to, kind of bring a bit of continuity throughout. So I think it's yeah. In terms of where we go, look, it kind of depends what your ambitions are. Obviously, last year the ambitions, as they were very loud in saying, was playoffs, and they recruited a team that I well, they recruited players that I don't think playoff chasing League Two teams would have been after. So I don't quite see how that leveled up this year. They've kind of been a bit, well, I don't know. Have they been quiet about it? It's not really the time of year where you talk about ambitions for next season. Ryan Lowe's kind of just, the remit is attacking football, isn't it? So yeah, just players that score goals would do me, mate. To be honest, I'm not really fussed about anything else. I've actually forgotten what it's like to see Wigan, sort of like be able to create chances and score goals. So anyone that can do that would be grand.
Yeah, I think I've unfortunately probably seen more ozone bounce TikToks coming out of Bolton in the last 6 months than I have seen hearing it at the DW. But
Yeah.
we touched on it there with staff, Gregor Rioch and the like. Nicky Adams has also come in as a first team coach, obviously a player that played with Ryan Lowe in his playing days. Obviously, it's hard to tell really with backroom staff, isn't it? With even with Warner as the goalkeeper coach, I think he'd only really be spoken about if we brought in Joel Pereira. So I don't expect too much noise to be made around the backroom staff other than the initial statement, but we can confirm now. Obviously, Latics have put it out there that those players those staff, sorry, that we said last week look like they're joining the club are now here. On the player side of things, typical Latics, we've decided half an hour before me and Dan went live to have a transfer rumour come out, and that is that Kamani Miller has been linked to Norwich and Stockport. Me and Dan were just saying off air, obviously, a similar thing happened in January with Kamani and Norwich in particular. But I don't think either of us expect him to move on, especially to Stockport, a team in the same league. I think it'd be a bit of a pointless move. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree. I would probably say Kamani Miller's agent, fair play to you. You've got his name in the media once again. It's Peter O'Rourke again as well, which genuinely, like the fact that it's the same player, one of the same clubs, and the same reporter, like that just screams agent talk to me. It's he's a young player who, well, he's obviously on a professional deal, but it will be the same deal that he signed when he joined from, was it Harrogate or Huddersfield or
The
something like
Gaisley
that?
with Josh
So,
Stones, I believe.
oh, is it? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it was Finn O'Boyle who came from Harrogate. Who's gone. Anyway, yeah, he came from nowhere basically, so he won't be on much. And given the fact he's highly rated, probably wants a pay increase. And I just hope we give it him. To be fair, because I think he suits the Ryan Lowe system well. We need left wing backs. So yeah, probably a nothing story, but fair play to his agent. His name's out there again, so well done.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think you touched on it there as well. I think it'd be a weird time for Kamani to decide to move on if that's what he was to do, because with the shift into a back three with wing backs, I think that probably suits him more than the back four. I think the way that Ryan Lowe is going to look to play, you'd imagine we would bring in a left wing back if Fraser Murray's to play on the right hand side, but I can't see us bringing in more than one with the view for Kamani Miller to be the backup.
Yeah, I'd agree. He's well, he play the last day of the season, albeit briefly, and I think Ryan Lowe was uh, very quick to praise him in terms of the fact that he's was the quote like first on the training ground, last off, or something along those lines. He basically said he's worked hard and he's not just there because it was, play a young player on the last day of the season, which I mean, I kind of hoped he'd do more of, to be fair, but he's obviously was trying to instill that ruthlessness, which is good. And the fact that he broke in, let's just hope he does it more because, like you say, he's wait, he couldn't be more suited to Ryan Lowe's left wing back slot. To be fair,
Yeah, I think one thing to say to round that up as well. Obviously, Ryan Lowe has already shown that he is probably more cutthroat than Sean Maloney was. Obviously, releasing Scott Smith, he spoke at the end of the season about grit and hard work, and the idea of being the first on and the last to leave the training pitch isn't enough for him, and you need technical ability.
mm.
And I think that speaks in. I don't know what your opinion is on this. I've seen many different opinions, so I'll ask you for it. Keeping Harry McHugh and letting go of Scott Smith. What do you make of that?
Yeah. Well, letting Scott Smith go is the right decision. Um, I think where Harry McHugh sort of kind of gets a pass, or not a pass. Well, ironically, he's better at passing, so it kind of does give him a pass in that sense. But his technical ability is objectively better than Scott Smith, and a bit more versatile, a bit younger. It's only a 1 year deal. He probably isn't on like. Well, it's probably just over a grand a week would be my guess. So, we're hardly gonna I see people, the classic Harry McHugh signs a new contract. That means we're not going to sign like the multi multi-million-pound player that we were never going to sign anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like he's just there to
Yeah.
fill. He's basically there to play probably in the EFL Trophy, or if we have another midfield injury crisis, which with our midfielders would be a surprise. But yeah, there's no issue with it. Like it'll just be released next summer, so I don't see why you'd be that fussed anyway.
Yeah, I think the way you worded it is bang on with it being a pass. I think the idea is probably, look, you've got 1 year to really show me something, and I think that's why they've
Mm.
left in his contract. There's an option of an extra year, so that if he does show real sort of an upward trajectory over the next 12 months, we're not just going to lose him on a
Yep,
free. But I think that
exactly
that
that.
is
Yeah.
that is bang on. I think the idea of it being a pass, an extra year, I think he's probably got enough technical ability compared to Scott Smith for Lowe to decide, you know what, I'll give you an extra 12 months to sort of show me something.
Yeah, that's it. He either has a good year and it was worth keeping him around, and then we get him for another year, or he just has another May year, and we release him at the end of a minimal contract. Like it's not the well, we all know why it caused outrage because we hadn't signed anyone by the time that happened. So that's why it caused outrage. But hey ho, we could go on forever about that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you touched on it there, obviously, the idea of signing somebody in Harry McHugh's position, and that is probably why people were a little bit outraged. Obviously, we've had a couple of links that we'll get into over recent weeks. One of which being Anthony Evans from Huddersfield Town, who I think it's fair to say plays in a very similar position to Harry McHugh, and Will Keane. Now, Will Keane on Twitter over the last 24, 48
Mm.
hours has caused a bit of an uproar on Latics Twitter. You've been in there getting your opinion on it. Do you
Yeah.
wanna give us a bit more?
Well, I would firstly preface this by saying that I was a anti Will Keane in the championship days. So, I'm not new to this game, mate. So the fact that he's 2 years older, even less mobile, not in form. I mean, he scored like 3 goals last season, was injured for a lot of it, was already not the quickest, not the most mobile, not the most creative. Not playing in a team that's literally like entirely aimed to get the ball to him within 6 yards of the goal. I mean, yeah, he scored loads of goals for us, like whoopee. I mean, well done. I really, really respect him for what he did for us. But like, should we sign Nathan Ellington as well? Well done, lads. Do you know what I mean? Like, Nathan Ellington is probably quicker than Will Keane as well. So
Yeah, yeah, he's
anything,
probably
he's
not
more
far
suited
off.
to it. Yeah,
Yeah, no, he's
Jason Roberts
probably.
will definitely be quicker than Will Keane. So let's sign the pair of them back and go on the title charge.
Yeah, no, I think you bang on. I think I don't expect any sort of further rumor to come of this. It's probably another example of agent talk. I don't
Mm,
expect any
yeah.
sort of further. I assume he's out of contract at Preston, in which case he's probably an agent trying to get his name out there, trying to get a top League One club. If he ends up at Bolton, add that onto the way that he left us, and I think he'll
Yeah.
certainly be not be a liked man when he comes to the brick next season.
No, I mean, like we got his career back on track, albeit he did help keep us up. So it's like, it's a give and take. And then he helped get us promoted with 20 odd goals and was brilliant that season and was our top goal scorer in the championship. So when I say that, I know how ridiculous the phrase all he does is score goals sound. But like when you don't have great players around him, you can't just have a passenger in games where you don't score goals. Do you know what I mean? So he's yeah, good luck to him. If he goes to Bolton, he'll probably score in the derby, classic. But I think he'd be a pretty poor signing for both of us, to be honest. And he's 32, probably on a decent whack at Preston. And like you say, the way that he left, kind of, I think, gets swept under the carpet because of the whole Jack Watmore thing. To be honest,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, we Paul Kendrick said it's rubbish, so we don't need to worry.
yeah. Obviously, a player that probably wouldn't be as much of a passenger in a game, and someone that I've definitely been a huge fan of. I've suggested him countless times over the last 18 months to 2 years. Is Anthony Evans. Now, typical Paul Kendrick has poured cold water on this immediately. He waits until I get giddy, and then he immediately kills any rumor that I'm ever excited for dead. But I thought I'd bring it in anyway because I think to me it's clear that we are looking at an attacking midfielder, and so even if he's
Mm.
not on the set list now, he could be later down the line. I'm not sure. I can't recall whether you've had Anthony Evans in sensible transfers before, but
Ooh, good
he's a
question.
player that I would imagine would be somewhat on the radar at his time at Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, I don't think I did purely because I think the last summer when he would have been on, I kind of thought he's had too good a season for him to join us almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, great player though. He, like you say, the kind of player that you could definitely see playing in a Ryan Lowe team, and um, yeah, I mean the fact that Paul Kendrick poured cold water on it. At least there was a rumor first. My suggestions never even got rumored, mate. So you're already doing better than me in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one because it was Alan Nixon saying it, who is a very reputable source. But who knows? It's the kind of time of year where agents make the money, don't they? So we'll see what comes of it. But if we do sign him, that's like it's such an upgrade in that midfield, 100%.
Oh, there we go. I think we lost it for a minute.
All good?
Are we back? Are we back? I think we're back. Right.
We are indeed.
But yeah, Anthony Evans. I think I have a mate who works in the academy at Bristol Rovers, so I just thought I'd bring this in because I asked him for a bit of details on Evans when we were actually linked to him until Kendrick had poured water on it, and now I'd feel quite bad for him if I didn't include it in the show. So I thought I'd give him a little bit of airtime. Joe Holbrook, if you don't follow him on Twitter, brilliant analysis, similar to Dan, but more sort of in the biomechanical side of the game. So if that's the sort of thing you're interested in, I won't bang on about it because I'm aware that a lot of people sort of look down on statistics and things like that. So I won't harp on about it, but just a little bit about Anthony Evans from Joe. He's just there's some bits in here that people are going to laugh at, but we'll get there. Describes him as a game changer and a set piece specialist. Now this is the bit where I admittedly I've got a question. Joe's talent ID compared his profile to that of Beckham or De Bruyne.
Wow. Well,
Now
they're all right.
that's high praise.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
heard they were all right at footy, so fair play.
well, yeah, I think that De Bruyne fella getting on a bit, but he's supposed to have meant to
Mm.
be all right. But yeah, he said
Yeah,
he's
I'd
a
take him on a
championship.
free transfer actually as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he's off to Napoli playing with McTominay. But you know, he's a championship level mindset, ground eater, ball striker, architect, jeweler, etc. Will remain one of my favourite all-time Bristol players while watching the Gas. So high praise from Joe. But I won't spend too much time on Anthony Evans, as obviously Paul Kendrick has sort of killed that one dead for now. If anything happens in the coming weeks, then we'll come back to it. But until then, we'll leave it there. A player that hasn't had his link to Wigan killed dead just yet is Javier Simmons or Javier Simons. I have no idea. I'm used to signing Englishmen, Dan. I don't know how this goes. So Javier Simons, Hull City, free transfer. Initial thoughts.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't mind it. He's a young midfielder who has experience at this level, championship level. I think he's a bit of a sort of all-round type. So I'd imagine he'd be one of one of the two more like industrious midfielders that Ryan Lowe wants, rather than the I guess you'd call it like the Matt Smith type at the base of it. But I guess he could also do that as well because like I say, he's very well rounded and yeah, free transfer. I mean, you can always kind of tell how good a player is by who is linked to him, and if teams in and around the playoff area want him, I wouldn't say no. I don't know loads about him, but from what I've seen, obviously at Wickham, I think at parts last season as well. So it, I mean, if they're signing him, they've got a good recruitment team. So there's definitely a player there, mate of Charlie Hughes at Hull. So if he can put a good word in, that'd be grand.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen of Simmons, sort of like a more of an 8/10 than an 8/6, like you said. Probably wouldn't play
Right.
that Matt Smith role. I think he played in the 10 for a lot of the season at Wickham. but he is a grafter. I've got a few Hull City fans as friends here at uni, and they say that he does put a shift in, does graft a lot. I think my initial thought is that he would play in sort of the old school Danny Mayer 10 in the Ryan Lowe midfield setup, but maybe it's just
Mm.
because I'm not used to seeing an 8 that is also technical. I'm used to only having really one technical midfielder in a Wigan team, and that's
Yeah.
usually the 10. But maybe I'm getting plagued by that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, you just need options, don't you? We need, well, not only do you need options, but you need players that, and again, this is kind of taking words out of Ryan Lowe's mouth, but 40, 50 game players, not just, you know, August to, let's call them tampon players, in for a week, out for a month. Do you know what I mean? So we need players that can properly stick around and put a shift in. And if he can do that, then he's already better than most of the midfielders we got. So yeah, fingers crossed that there's well, that doesn't get covered in water by Paul Kendrick.
Yeah, hopefully. So Paul, even if it's not true, just let me
Yeah,
have this one,
we'll,
please.
we'll just have it. We'll just have it.
Just let us have it for once. But one thing that I do want to ask you now that we're on it, I wasn't thinking about this beforehand, but so Harry McHugh links to Simmons, strenuous links to Evans. It's clear that we're after a number of midfielders. It's clear that we're after technical midfielders. What do
Yeah.
you make of Ronan Darcy? Because my sort of I had this theory towards the back end of last season, and I might be completely wrong on this. He could go and play every game for him and be class. But I have this like idea that Ryan Lowe just doesn't really fancy him that much because I think there were moments towards the back end of last season. I know he picked up an injury in sort of the last couple of months, but there were certainly 4 or 5 games at the back end of last season where I think Ronan Darcy in the midfield crisis that we had injury wise could and some would say should have played, but he seemed to always pick Harry McHugh over him.
Yeah, I think part of that's probably down to Harry McHugh off the ball rather compared to Darcy off the ball, and the fact that it was kind of in that period where Ryan Lowe just accepted that we couldn't score goals. So it was like, right, we'll just draw every game 0-0, then that's sound. Um, so he's probably a victim of that. I think Darcy would have been or should have been a good signing for Maloney, probably like summer before we got him. And if we hadn't signed a load of rubbish around him. Um, yeah, in terms of Ryan Lowe, I'm not sure. It's a tough one because like he can do the role that we want. I imagine Ryan Lowe wants him to do, but can he do it better than new players that we could sign? Are there teams that will bid for Ronan Darcy and we go, yeah, we'll cut our losses or just make whatever money we can? I, he's a really interesting one actually. I think most of the squad, it's kind of obvious whether they'll be here or not, whether they suit Ryan Lowe or not. Darcy is probably the one with the biggest question mark, I think. So it's an interesting one. I know I've not really answered anything there, and I've done a mad political answer of just walk slowly across the line. But I'd like to see him stick around because I think he's a talented player.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the one for the most question marks while we're on it, and then we'll move on to 5 players that we think we should sign. Johnny Smith.
Yeah, true.
I'm worried for him. I've got to say it, I'm worried for him.
To be fair, I think I'd cash in. I don't think he will ever be as valuable as he is now.
Yep,
Um, Signed a new deal as well, so we can chuck another 100 grand or so on.
yep.
And anyone who plays 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 and doesn't have a right winger, just like cut inside and shoot merchant, you might as well pay the money. You can have him.
Yeah, I've got this just before we came on, obviously we were touching on Bradford because of reasons that we will unfortunately get onto, but I have this idea that he'd be great for Bradford and just like a team that have just come up with probably a bit of money behind them, big club. I don't want to ship him off to somewhere that I've no disrespect to teams in this league, but I wouldn't want to ship him off to like a smaller club because I'd feel quite
Mm.
like he is done well, but Bradford I think would be a really good fit for him. I don't know why. That's just something that I've got in my head is that Johnny Smith to Bradford for like 400 grand would be good for everyone. But yeah, I've had this idea from minute one. As soon as you put him at left wing back, I thought no, like that's just not working. Right wing back, it's
Oh,
not
it's
going to
so
work.
bad.
Yeah,
He's so
no,
bad at wing back. It's
yeah.
it's
I
actually
thought
painful.
I
But
thought
like,
left
I don't blame him. But he's so
no,
bad at wing back.
yeah, left wing back not going to work. Right wing back still not going to work because you can't cut in. So unless he can play sort of right-sided centre forward, which you're
Yeah.
really scraping the barrel at that point, I just don't see it working.
No, agreed. But then it comes back to the if Johnny Smith had a right foot that wasn't just for standing on, he'd probably be playing in the Prem. So it's
Well,
brutal.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
his left foot his left foot is a joke. Like obviously that's maybe being a bit he also needs like massive technical improvements. Prem's a bit far, but
yeah. Championship at
he
least.
yeah, he's like a very, very good one trick pony. And if he had more than one trick, he'd be yeah, not being linked with a 400-gram move to Bradford on Latics Lowdown. Let's just put it
Yeah,
that way.
well, there you go. Sorry, Johnny. You know who he reminds me of in like a very different way, in that he's nowhere near as powerful. But in terms of like you nailed it there, one trick, Yannick Wildschut.
Hmm.
Like he's got one thing that he's just really good at, and no one in the league can stop it. Which is why, like you said, if he did have a bit more about him, he could play in the championship. But
Yeah, yeah,
unfortunately, he is just that one trick.
yeah. He's the Aldi Iron Robin, basically. But
The Aldi Iron Robin.
I,
Oh
I
dear.
don't blame him for it really.
No, he's a good player, bless him. But we'll move on to speaking about Bradford in a minute. We'll go to our 5 players that we think we should sign. Now, admittedly, I've just picked these and told Dan deal with it. Basically, you're the oracle. You're the so we'll move on. We'll go backwards because we'll get to the Bradford issue in a minute. I'm sure we will.
Nice,
But
nice.
my first pick, no brainer for me if it becomes available. Macaulay Langstaff.
Yep, yep. I like it. I like it. It's well, like all your points there. That's basically everything I had written down as well. Proven poacher, tick. Prime years, so not relying on 21-year-olds who've got one goal in 28 at Burton. Thank you, Joe. Experienced playing two up top. That's good because Ryan Lowe doesn't change. And I think obviously you've put loan here and you've said could be available. I like it when players have a bad I like it when good players have a bad season. Everyone goes, "Oh, they're rubbish." Their value tumbles, and you can get them for way less than you should be able to. So yeah, it'd be nice. The only sort of question marks I would have is he one of these like purple patch players, and now he's out of form? Is he going to have forgotten where the net is, or is he one of these players that, like you say, just jumped up a little bit too early? But it's an interesting option, and I'd definitely explore it if he came on the market, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree with that idea of a good player having a bad season and suddenly become available. Something else that I love, and it's happened again with Notts County, funnily enough, is a player that has a first half of the season that is out. Well, there's two actually that spring to mind. A player that has a really good 6 months and then a really meh second 6 months of the season, and
Mm,
suddenly they go from being linked to everyone under the sun to like, oh, they're actually available for us now. And my point with that is Alassane Yatta. Now he's not in this
yep.
5, but suddenly, like, you went from linking him straight to the championship, similar to Langstaff, really. And now
Yep.
suddenly it looks as though he could be on the market. Another one, Nathan Lowe, someone that looks like he's
Mm.
probably going to drop down into this league next year.
Yeah, well, do you remember last season Jake Young at Swindon in the first half of the season
Funnily enough,
who got like
Jake Young is in my sort of list of people for the similar idea of
yeah,
Langstaff.
yeah. Well, is he at Stevenage now? Which was kind of like it was meant to be a like belt-in signing for them, and he's kind of not done anything. But yeah, again, like you say, you don't just become a bad player overnight. Um, and ultimately, he's a proven goal scorer, not at the level you'd have to say. And maybe my only other question mark would be: is he on championship wages? Would Millwall want us to pay all of those championship wages? But again, a nice option who, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the market.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll move backwards, but we'll have to completely speak over this slide and that. Oh no, never mind. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. I've miscounted. Samson Tovide, Colchester United. Right. I'll lead on this one. 12 goals and assists from 23 starts last season. For me, he reminds me a little bit. I don't know if you'd agree with this if you've seen much of him, of Isaac Oluwafe at Stockport.
Mm,
I
yep,
think a really
yep.
powerful runner. runs channels really well. I think he'd suit a Ryan Lowe system for that reason. Again, you put him up front with someone else as a little bit of a foil for him. The only concern I would have with him, I've got it down here, is that he's a bit of a raw talent. He's quite young, but we spoke about in previous weeks on here, Ryan Lowe. It seems fairly obvious to me that we're going to bring in 3 number 9s this summer. And so if you were to bring in Tovide as sort of the third one to bring off the bench and to sort of treat as Lowe's little passion project in a way, to sort of treat him as your development striker, I think that would be a really nice pickup for us. What do you make of Samson Tovide?
Yep, 100% agrees. He's been a sensible transfer pick for I think all bar the first series. I mean, like he's a physical anomaly. He's really quick, but built like an absolute maniac. Back to goal or in behind, he can do either. Um, so yeah, like you again, the notes I'd made: powerful, quick, physical anomaly, developing technically every season, which I think is key because when I first watched him, he was a little bit basically just a bull in a china shop, and the ball kind of pinged off him. Um, but he's getting there. He is getting there, and at 21, there's still loads of room to develop. Ryan Lowe being an ex-striker, I mean, you just have to look at some of the strikers Ryan Lowe's developed. Like this guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to number 9s. Um, but the only sort of negatives, injury record is a little bit patchy, which has definitely stunted his development. And 2 years left in his contract, so whether or not they're at a point where they want to sell him yet, who knows? But yeah, in terms of a like the ideal for me would be bring in someone like Niall Ennis, or the like alternative that I had written down is Ghassan Ahadmi from Charlton on loan, who again is another one that I've been banging the drum about for a while. Get them as your starter. Samson Tavida off the bench. I mean, that is with someone like Langstaff or Ronan Hale or even Asamoah, to be fair, on the other side. That's like there's goals there, to be fair. There's goals. So yeah, I
Yeah,
like him.
yeah, I agree. I think Ronan Hill and Niall Ennis as a front two to start, and Tavide coming off the bench is
Yeah.
frightening, to be quite frank. I think there's years gone by where I'd have said that's arguably too much, and you're investing too much into your forward line. But then like the amount of strikers that like the likes of Huddersfield and Bolton have, it's just what you have to do nowadays.
Mm.
Obviously,
Yeah.
the injury record is patchy, but you would hope that not playing an entire season and being off the bench as that third choice would sort of negate that a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, one thing as well that's probably worth mentioning about him is he's left-footed, which is a nice little point of difference, I guess. And well, whether you want to play him on the left as a result of that, or have him as you sort of almost like inside forwards on either side kind of thing. But I'm trying to think of other left-footed like strikers available at our sort of price range, not like Haaland and that. And there aren't loads. So yeah,
No.
someone in the EFL in the next 18 months is going to sign Samson Tavide, and they're going to be very happy about it. I just hope it's us.
Yeah, definitely. Just to wrap up on that, a left-footed striker that I like the look of has just gone down the road, unfortunately, hasn't
Yeah, true, but he's rubbish anyway, so who cares?
he? Yeah. Moving swiftly on. Right. Now we're gonna have to switch up a little bit. We've
Hmm.
had to think on the fly because Dan messaged me. Gotta be what, maximum 15 minutes before we kicked off here. And Josh Neufield's now signed for Bradford,
Yep.
which is a
Yep.
great
I
signing for
mean,
them.
fair play to him. Fair play to
Yeah,
him because they not only have they signed one of the best right wing backs on the market and left wing backs actually, because you can play both sides,
yeah,
which is annoying. But they've also ruined this entire segment. So cheers, lads. Thank you.
yeah.
This is
So
Curtis Tilt getting me back for blocking me on Twitter, by the way. This is Curtis Tilt conspiracy.
Curtis Tilt has blocked you on Twitter.
Yeah.
Do I want to ask?
I said if he was right-footed, he'd be playing for Chorley.
I mean, you were on a Charlie National League or National League North?
Uh,
Because if the
I think they
National
were.
League, you were only
I
a
think they
division
were. I
off.
think. Yeah, I think they were National League North at the time. To be fair, but I stand by. He's rubbish. So Hello, Curtis, if you're watching.
Oh dear, a prime example of falling upwards. Although I will just say, keep him on the good side. That Curtis, that performance at Rotherham away will forever be remembered.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah,
So
that was a banger.
I quite
Oh,
liked
by the
him.
way, I just on that game, I went back and looked at the match stats for that, and the passing accuracy is the funniest thing you'll ever see. Genuinely, both are under 50%. So
What really?
what a day! What a day! Kerr still, and I think it was Tilt, Kerr, and Watmore had like 25% completion each. Oh, what a day of football that was!
Jeez, how we have moved on. Jesus Lord, the fact that that sticks in
Yeah.
your mind as well.
Well,
Like
it would
3 years
because
on.
yeah, wow, incredible. So fair play, Curtis, for that. But the rest of it, oh well.
By the by,
And the
really.
goal
Anyway,
against Burton. And the goal against Burton.
yeah, can't forget that. But go on, Dan. Do you want to tell people who we've because we're not cheap. We won't give you 4. We'll stick to 5. We promised 5. So do you want to take people through who we've switched out Josh Neufville for?
Yeah, so anyone who's read a sensible transfer piece before will probably know the name Phoenix Patterson. Anyone who's following me on Twitter, I promise I'm not related to him or working for his agency or have a cut in anything that involves Phoenix Patterson Moving Club. But yeah, brilliant player. Again, can play both sides like Josh Nerville. Decent, well, very good crossing, chance creation numbers like Josh Nerville. Good dribbler like Josh Nerville. And defensively, for a winger slash wing back, not a liability. Physically, not great. I wouldn't say he's quite slight, but yeah, experience playing the system, can change it up. Young at Fleetwood, so Joe Riley will know a lot about him. There's a lot of positives there. We should have signed him about 2 years ago. Just do it now, basically.
Yeah, like you said there, I'm hoping that the appointment of Joe Riley accelerates or at least gets off the ground the hunt of Phoenix Patterson and Brendan Wirradu as well, which I'm sure I'll
Yep.
touch on a future episode. But yeah, Phoenix Patterson for me, similar to Dan. If you've followed me on Twitter over the last 18 months to 2 years, you'll know who he is. He's probably outside of some individuals who probably have some patchy history with us, probably the most talked about man to have never put on a Wigan shirt on Wigan Twitter, I would say.
Yeah,
But
which is basically just Anto's pair as well. So that is
yeah,
influence.
yeah, well, yeah. So yeah, Phoenix Patterson. Like I won't go over it again, but like Dan's just said, can play either side. Really good defensively. We were talking just before we came on, and we said that annoyingly, he has at different moments moved between being a winger and a wing back, seemingly at the perfect time that Latics seemed to change from playing wingers and wing backs, and yet we've never looked at him. So
Yeah.
he's played last season as a wing back for Fleetwood. We've just moved to wing backs. We've just brought in the Fleetwood head of recruitment. Surely now is the time, I'm hoping, for Phoenix Patterson to start wearing blue and white.
Yeah, I think my final sales pitch will be he's better than Michael Olakigbe, Silko Thomas, and Dion Rankin, and I'll just leave it at that.
Surely the bar is not very high there. I've got hope for Dion
Well,
Rankin, and I'm not just saying that because he's the only one that's still here.
yeah, true. Oh, Christ, yeah, I forgot he's still there. Hello, Dion, if you're watching as well. I'll be blocked on TikTok soon.
I was going to say I saw that TikTok comment. I actually, Dion, I do quite like you. I think there's something
No, I
there.
don't mind. He's very quick and he's very fun to watch. But
My issue with it,
you
I
know,
know we've had moments here where we're just diving into last season, but it was so bad that we've got to talk about it. That like my issue with Dion Rankine was that always he's getting the ball in Johnny Smith areas when he's not Johnny Smith. Like he's getting it in the final third where he needs to cut in and do something, and that's just not his game. I think if you give him space to run into and use his pace
mm,
as a wing back, he showed at Exeter. Like the only time
that's
that
the
I would
thing.
worry about
Yeah,
Dion Rankine next season is if we play against low blocks, and then it's kind of game over.
he is. Well, he seemed reluctant to kick the ball and run after it, which is what he should do. And in fairness to him, I would assume that's entirely style related because that's what Johnny Smith was like when he first joined. So I think that was a Maloney thing. But yeah, well, not high hopes for him, but he'll be all right. He'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get on just fine. He'll probably have more competition, but he'll be fine. Next, Isaac Hutchinson. Right. We've spoke about Anthony Evans. We spoke about Javier Simmons. We spoke about players that can get the ball in midfield and drive it forward, which is something we have desperately lacked for what seems like years in this club. Even our number 10s, we spoke about Will Keane, don't seem to be that sort of player. So I'm hoping we recruit at least one that can do it this summer. And so my alternative for Simmons and for Evans is Isaac Hutchinson. Great season at Walsall a couple of years ago. A solid season, I would say. Last season at Bristol Rovers, as much as you can in a relegated side. 6 goals and assists. Like I said, for me, an impressive dribbler in central areas, which, when you get into sort of these depths of the EFL, is a rarity, to be honest. Especially a rarity for players that are achievable to go and get. And so I've got him in there. He's a great ball striker as well. I think going through his clips, some of the goals that he scored over the last sort of 2-3 years have been outrageous. I believe he's out the Derby County Academy. But yeah, what are your takes on sort of Isaac Hutchinson?
Yeah. Again, another one who I spoke about in the sensible transfers last summer. I was really gutted when he joined Bristol Rovers. Actually, they've got a few players that I suggested last summer, but they went down. So maybe I'm the idiot. But yeah, well, agree with everything you said there. I also like the fact that at Warsaw, experienced playing 3-5-2, just like another player we might touch on. We'll shoot from range. We'll make things happen. Kind of, I'm not going to say from nothing, but from what I've seen watching Warsaw, which I've done fairly regularly with work, is he was the kind of player that a bit of a lull in a game. No one's had a shot for 5-10 minutes. He will just test the keeper, win a corner, something like that. Just the kind of player, like Lewis Wing at Reading, for example, who'll just see the whites of the goalkeeper's eyes and ping it from anywhere. And even if it doesn't go in, you get the ball up the pitch, blah blah blah. So yeah, I like him. Everything about him is a Ryan Lowe midfielder, and again been relegated. So is his value lower because of the poor season? Maybe, but also 3 years left on his deal. Bristol Rovers will definitely look at him as a player that is probably maybe not too good for League Two, but as good a player as you'll get in League Two in his position. Could be a tough deal to do, but if we can get it done, fantastic. Because yeah, he's one of those players that needs to play in well, not a good team, but a better team to thrive.
Yeah, he's not a player that thrives in sort of sitting in a lower block midfield
No, no.
but like constantly having to lump balls forward to promise on a cherry, really, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, exactly.
definitely someone I'd look at. Like you touched on there, it might be a hard deal to do. Obviously, Bristol Rovers for League Two standard, I would argue, a massive club as well. So they are probably likely to keep hold of players that you maybe
Mm.
you've had in your sensible transfers before. Long live Ruel Sotiriou. But yeah, it's a deal that I think we could just about do. I'm hopeful that we can sort of cherry pick from those clubs that do get relegated. But like you said, 3 years on his deal, it's not going to be the easiest one in the world. But it's probably why we would look at people like Anthony Evans and people like Javier Simmons first before tumbling down to go and look at Isaac Hutchinson. But it's one that I thought I'd suggest. I think similar profile to the two, really. I believe he was
Yeah,
probably
definitely,
he was
definitely.
probably Anthony Evans' replacement at Bristol, I would imagine.
Yeah, I guess so. Which, yeah, I don't think he's as good as Anthony Evans, but could definitely do similar things to him. Yeah, I mean, there's one on in the other name that I, to be fair, again, I haven't done really any sensible transfer research, but if there was one player that I would label as the Wigan sensible transfer for this summer, it'd be Ben Woods at Accrington, who's a midfielder, left-footed centre midfielder, versatile, can do a bit of everything. Again, similar to Isaac Hutchinson. I mean, just watch his Accrington Stanley goal of the season if you want to know a player that can do something from nothing. He's 22, left-footed centre mid. Get him in.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. 6. We've made up for the Northville clanger.
There we go. There we
There's
go.
your 6th man for you. But moving on, I believe this is the final one. touching on Walsall again, obviously, like you said, I accidentally I've probably built this perfectly as a man that's watched a fair bit of Walsall, obviously, like you said. So Taylor Allen. Now, I've seen Preston linked. I'm not convinced. I feel like that could be another example of agent talk. Again, we like the double jump. There's a blueprint there
Mm.
of people like Langstaff that have attempted it, let alone defenders. Because if you do go up, if you go up as Langstaff, I don't know. This could be really short sighted and not true of me, but I feel like if you go up as a forward and you don't do that well, you tumble down to a top League One team and you're fine. Whereas if you go up as a defender and do the double jump and you get made to look silly, your stock goes out the window a bit more. I might be wrong on
Yeah,
that, but that's just how I see it.
yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I mean, in terms of Taylor Allen to Preston, that does feel lofty. But he's a good player. I mean, do you wanna do the intro on Taylor, or do you want me to take the lead?
I'll let the well Telford, but I'll let the Walsall correspondent. Is that what we'll go with that?
I mean, Warsaw fans won't want me being called that because I did how many? Well, I did a few Warsaw games last season, but the main one I did was their 3-0 defeat to Bradford, which basically started their entire run of rubbish. So I'm
Oh,
I reckon I'm about 15% responsible for Warsaw not getting promoted. Um, so sorry about that, everyone.
the other
Who's a Warsaw
85%
fan.
being attributed to Stoke City, of course.
Yeah, yeah, basically. But no, Taylor Allen. I mean, even on that day, he was probably their best player. Um, the the obvious standout stuff is his weirdly attacking stuff, which again, with when you're talking about a centre back, do you want to be saying this guy's really good at scoring goals and taking corners? I'd probably prefer to say he wins 80% of his duels and dominates in the air. And looking at his stats, I mean, he wins 4.3 per 90. You're probably looking for 6 or 7 as like a high, that's where you probably want your best players to be. Um, it's a weird one. The kind of perfect combo would be if you could morph him and Luke Robinson into one left-sided
Yeah.
centre back slash wing back. That'd be pretty cool. Obviously, I don't think we've got the ability to do that. So yeah, it's an interesting one because 17 goals and assists from centre half is crazy. Left-footed set piece. I mean, we were rubbish from set pieces, so that'd be great. Again, Warsaw not getting promoted, like you say, will kind of make him a bit more gettable. But yeah, it's an interesting one for a lot of reasons. I mean, yeah, would you prioritize attacking at centre back? I'm not sure. It feels a bit sort of John Mellish, but more expensive.
Yeah, no, I see that. I think for me, there's a world where I watched a really good tactical analysis on Walsall's first half of the season, and forgive me because I can't remember the YouTube channel, so now I just feel quite bad. But I watched a really good video on it, and a lot of Taylor Allen's best stuff and quite a fair amount of his assists came from sort of weirdly existing in a very John Mellish position, actually, sort of just outside the box, not quite the half space, but knocking
Mm.
around that sort of area and sort of clipping balls into the back post, which makes me wonder maybe there is a world where he could become a midfielder or become a six or something
Yeah,
of that. Obviously, you'd be
he played midfield for him last season at times, definitely. So it's definitely something he could do. Yeah.
oh well, there you go then. It bit more of a utility player. Obviously, his goal return would probably mean that he'd probably be quite an expensive utility player. In which case,
Mm.
your point is probably good that John Mellish is a significantly sort of cheaper option. And again, while you've already got John Mellish, you need another player that can do that. My only a big part of the reason that I've got him in our sensible transfers is that so his defensive numbers aren't like woeful. They're fine to an
Yeah.
extent.
No, they are. They're fine. They're fine. Yeah.
His attacking output and his set piece delivery is up there.
Mm.
And I would hope that putting him in a team like Walsall in the first half of the season that dominate the ball, hopefully, is what we're going to be looking to do. That he wouldn't be getting exposed in that regard. Also, you put onto that the fact that we are one of the best defensive teams in the league, and you'd hope that that trend. All right, yeah, we might lose Sam Tickle, but you would hope that that trend doesn't severely fall off under Ryan Lowe. So I don't know. I just thought I'd put him forward because I think a man that steps into a team that dominate the ball in the league above, I think there is a world there where it could be a very sort of astute sign. And also like Williamson, I love him to bits, not left-footed. Even if you include Williamson, we only have, I believe, 3, 4 if you count Luke Robinson centre halves.
Mm.
And in my opinion, Williamson should be started to be used next season as a backup for Kerr and Carragher.
Yep. Yeah,
So
I
I think,
mean, with Taylor Allen, it's one of them where if he was out of contract this summer, you'd like chuck the kitchen sink at it
yeah,
because he's out of contract next summer. And also, this is, well, I've not seen much of him before this season, but my guess is this is his like big breakout season. So maybe it's one of them that you sort of put on the back burner. Maybe go, would you be keen next season? Get a few irons in the fire, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a tough one because like Will Ameson's played left centre back for Ryan Lowe at 3 different clubs, so
yeah,
he
yeah.
obviously likes him there. Um, I think with let's say Fraser Murray plays left wing back, I would probably want Will Ameson behind him more than Taylor Allen defensively.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
if
yeah,
Luke Robinson played left wing back, I wouldn't mind Taylor Allen at left centre back. So it's all sort of, you've got to profile your players right and this kind of thing. But there's no doubt in Taylor Allen has had an unbelievable season and would be a good signing for any League One team. It's just the price point that's maybe the sticking. Well, the thing that will probably keep him at Warsaw would be my guess.
yeah. Definitely, the hope would be that obviously with a year left on his contract, you could hopefully negotiate that down. But again, I think you are probably right. To be fair, the idea of sort of sticking a Stoke in the fire, and ideally, so God, the Warsaw fans must hate the word Stoke. God, they must
Yeah.
hate that word, But yeah, the sticking a Stoke in a fire, for want of a better phrase, and sort of leaving it on the back burner for next season potentially is all right. I was also thinking Williamson's obviously suspended, isn't he, for the first 3 games of next season? Which,
Yeah, that was good of him. That was good of
yep, really worth it. That was, Will, you numpty.
him. Yeah,
Anyway,
honestly, I like John. I like John Mellish at left centre back. I
yeah,
would, I'd put your stocks in John Mellish at left centre back because hopefully we
really,
sign more midfielders. Like Tyrese Francois should play left centre mid. Matt Smith should play the other one, and then we should have a Deco. In fairness, if they all stay fit, that is a great midfield three. John Mellish, therefore, does become a good option at left centre back. I mean, it's where he played a lot for Carlisle. And if you want that kind of marauding, player that can turn a back three into a back two kind of thing, step into midfield, all this kind of stuff, John Mesh is a good idea there.
yeah, I've got to be honest with you. That midfield three does nothing for me. I've got to be honest.
Wow.
I don't
Wow.
know. I'm lacking an Anthony Evans or a Javier Simmons sort of
Yeah.
10.
Yeah. No, I mean it does. It definitely depends on your front two. If
Yeah,
you got like Niall Ennis and Ronan Hale up there, then I'm feeling a bit more confident. But you do need some goals in there otherwise.
yeah, definitely. I mean, to be fair, with wing backs of hopefully Phoenix Patterson and Fraser
Yeah.
Murray,
Yeah.
you never know.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I hate this, but I am excited again, even though I know
Same.
that we'll probably be let down and we'll probably sign like some geezer on loan from Newcastle who's played like 4 under 21 games. But
Alex Murphy
we
reached
watched
for that
him.
left centre back.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. He's good on Football Manager though, so fair play to him.
Bolton though.
Yeah, that's the annoying thing is I did sign him on Football Manager before he joined
Oh,
Bolton, and then I kind of was stuck in this weird simulation where in real life he's a Bolton player, but I was still kind of needing him in my team. Brutal, but there you go.
yeah. The perils of Football Manager being 2 years behind.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Anyway, we will leave it there for now. We're pushing the hour mark. But Dan, thank you very much. Any last sort of things that you wanna push?
Uh, uh, Usually I'd say Talking Wigan, and it feels weird
Yeah.
not saying Talking Wigan now at the
Yeah,
end of
yeah.
that. Go and you know what? Go back and read Talking Wigan because it is good. Even though there won't be any new content, you might as well just go and refresh yourself on I don't know, Wigan versus Stoke preview 2022. I'm sure that's everyone's keen to read that.
Go back and read the
Sorry, I've
Rob
said
Dunn
Stoke
reaction.
again. Oh my God, Walsall fans.
Oh no!
Ah,
Oh, Walsall are quaking. Walsall are quaking. Go back
we
and
should
read
we
the
should
Rob Dunn
also
report.
definitely sign Nathan Lowe as well, just to
And Niall
make
Ennis.
it even worse. Yeah, yeah.
And anyway, we will leave it there. Dan, thank you very much for coming on. A well-respected and well-known member of the Wigan community. Is always great to have on here for the first guest as well. So you'll forever have that to your name. Talking Wigan,
Wow.
Latics Lowdown first guest.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
got
I
to be
can't
how it
wait to
goes.
see the illustrious guests that follow because the bar's
Yeah,
been
I'll
set
tell
at
you
about
about one
that
of
high.
them actually after that I'm
Ooh.
trying desperately. You'll be familiar. But thank you very much for watching. As always, like, subscribe, come back this time next week, 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. Bye for now.